The diameter of the observable universe spans a total of 93 billion light-years across. Within this daunting expanse of starlight and wonder sits the Milky Way galaxy, merely a pinprick of light in comparison. And even smaller still is a humble blue sphere, called Earth, our home. My name is Daniel Danielson, and this is Space Stuff. Wait, Neil, space stuff? Oh, all.
Kuiper? Kuiper? Why do you keep insisting on giving me things to say that I can't possibly know how to pronounce and not giving me any sort of guide, Neil? You've made this the subject of the whole episode, too. How am I supposed to say this? Kipper? Kuiper? Thank God you're writing this one on the screen. It's the title of the episode. I'm just going to guess and pronounce it how I want. I'm saying it like Kuiper, like diaper, like a diaper belt. Something I assume you wear, Neil, you stupid child. I can't sit around here all day telling you what a diaper belt is. It's something. Move on, Neil. In 1951, Dutch astronomer Gerard Kuiper published a paper speculating on the existence of objects beyond Pluto. More on that dwarfish outcast later. While several details of his hypothesis were later deemed incorrect, the scientific community named the region after him nonetheless. Populating the Kuiper Belt is a multitude of free-floating objects, mainly rocks or chunks of ice, known as Kuiper Belt objects, or KBOs for short. So the best they could come up with, was it, Neil? Or is that your turn? No, it's theirs? You're as stupid as you. There are 4 or 5 categories. Well, which is it? Well, what do they know for certain, Neil? What, are scientists just a bunch of morons in a room throwing out numbers at random? Surely they know something. Well, yes, that's a good start. Thank you. There are 4 or 5 categories of KBO. Cold classical KBOs, hot classical KBOs, resonant KBOs, scattered KBOs, and possibly sednoids. There, is that better? Good, I'm glad you're happy, Neil. Cold classical KBOs sounds like a radio station. While it's now little more than a massive expanse of debris similar to what is commonly known as an asteroid field, the Kuiper Belt once contained raw material that totaled 7 to 10 times the Earth's mass, and may have been on the verge of accreting into a new planet. However, the combined force of solar winds and Neptune's gravitational pull kept the KBOs from forming into anything large enough to remain stable. You know, Neil, that reminds me of the time when my dreadful neighbor moved out of the loft next to mine. I decided I didn't want a new neighbor moving in and risk going through that whole process again. So whenever the realtor had an open house, I would stand outside and throw firecrackers on the sidewalk, sometimes at a window. Needless to say, the realtor lost her job and no one ever came to replace her. No new neighbor for Daniel. Well, the realtor's job shouldn't have inconvenienced me if she didn't want that. Oh, my apologies. Look at me, I'm Neil. I just get along with everyone. Currently, the entire Kuiper belt is thought to have only 10% of the Earth's mass, much less chaotic than it once was. The belt has been eroding over time. Collisions produce chunks of rock that are much more likely to burst open than stick together, and the lightest dust is continually pushed out of the belt by solar winds. Over time, larger material has also been captured by planet's orbit, launched toward the Sun as a comet, or booted out towards the edge of the solar system. Closing in on said edge, the Hills Cloud is a spherical region of leftover material from our solar system's birth, encapsulating the solar system from the Sun to the Kuiper belt. Beyond the Hills Cloud is the Oort Cloud, an even larger sphere around the Hills Cloud that is mixed more heavily with captured interstellar travelers. Most long-period comets originate from either the Oort Cloud or Hills Cloud. The Oort Cloud? Who named that? Sounds Dutch. Was it someone Dutch? Ugh, the Dutch are a pointless people. I don't care. Are the Dutch even going to watch this, Neil? You have your opinions and I have mine. I said what I said. The Kuiper belt acts as something of a reservoir and cold storage for potential short-period comets, giving them the healthy coating of frost that allows us to see them from Earth. Yes, shine on, you crazy diamond. Also called dirty snowballs. You're making that up. Comets are giant chunks of rock and frozen gases orbiting the Sun. They're comprised of a nucleus, the comet's core, and a coma, the bright tail reflecting the Sun. As it approaches perihelion, the closest point in its orbit to the Sun, the frozen atmosphere that makes up the surface layers of the comet phases directly from solid to gas in a process called transubstantiation. Wait, sorry. That's something else. In a process called sublimation, bypassing the liquid phase altogether. At first, this is localized to the area around the nucleus, erupting to the size of an enormous planet before the solar winds push the gaseous material behind the comet in two long tails, one of gas and one of dust. There are two types of comets. Short-period comets with revolutions lasting less than 200 years, and usually originating from the Kuiper belt, and long-period comets with longer revolutions that usually come from the Hills or Oort cloud. When Jupiter attracts a short-period comet into its orbit, it herds the ball of ice into a solar loop lasting 20 years or less. These comets are soon exhausted of material. The Sun is very effective at evaporating substances that are suited to existence on Earth, and especially those exotic substances suited only to space, some forged even before the Sun. Comets that get too close to the Sun are called sun grazers, and like the insolent Icarus before them, they tend to either fly head first into the star, or evaporate entirely before they can reach it. Imbeciles. Nearest and dearest to us in the Kuiper belt is former planet Pluto, named for the Roman king of the dead and now one of the estimated 100 or 200 dwarf planets, or Plutoids, hiding in the Kuiper belt. Plutonian days last 153 hours, and being 3.6 billion miles from the Sun, has a 248-year revolution. With a diameter of less than 1,500 miles, Pluto is smaller than our Moon, only half the size of the United States, in fact, and therefore, despite a boisterous outcry from the world at large, is simply too small to be considered a true planet. Pluto has a history of vast changes in atmospheric pressure, presumably because the atmosphere on Pluto is very similar to a comet. When it approaches the Sun, the frozen atmosphere sublimates and thickens. Then, as it moves away from the Sun, the atmosphere begins to freeze again and collapse. Though diminutive, Pluto is home to a wondrous landscape. Its mountains are great blocks of water ice, sometimes coated in frozen nitrogen or methane. The sky is bright blue, the ice is stark white, and the snow is blood red. Pluto's Sputnik Planitia is a 600-mile wide glacier, roughly shaped like a heart, the biggest glacier known to exist in the solar system. Because even when one has fallen from the heights of luxury and adoration that they once knew, sometimes we can still be capable of incredible things. Shut up, Neil, I'm not crying. Moving past Pluto, the KBO population becomes quite unique, such as an odd peanut-shaped KBO by the name of Ultima Thule, and even contact binaries, KBOs so close together that they actually touch. Currently, object KV-42, nicknamed Drake, is the only known KBO with a retrograde orbit, possibly caused by a long-ago collision. Charon has an equatorial tectonic belt suggesting a long-ago water-ice ocean, and the dwarf planet Haumea is shaped and patterned like a dinosaur egg at 1/3 Pluto's mass. Its elliptical shape is due not to size but to speed. The dwarf planet spins so fast end over end that it fully rotates every 4 hours, also likely the result of an impact. Haumea's red spot is thought to be a super dense cluster of water ice, but it could just be irradiated material or some kind of organic matter. No, Neil, I'm not okay. I was a star. I once performed the Queen Mab speech so beautifully that it was only outdone by the standing ovation. But now you've got me crouching in a shack in Santa Monica talking about space rocks. Fine space stuff, you mouth-breathing. I need